I'm a tiny taggart in a brave new world, gonna free this town. If you didn't know about me already, well, you know it now. Hi guys, and welcome to Objectivist Girl. This is my 420 legalized marijuana video. So I have Matt Simon, who is an expert on marijuana policy. He is from the New Hampshire Coalition for Common Sense Marijuana Policy. And I am going to ask him a few questions today, and we're going to find out some information about marijuana legalization. So, hi Matt, how are you today?
Hi Lauren, it's great to be here.
Yeah, did you enjoy your 420?
To me, 420 is just another day, so the fact that it rolled around on a Sunday meant that I actually got to take a day off and enjoy it. So, yeah, absolutely.
Such a great turnout. I love that.
Beautiful weather and everything. So
It was so gorgeous yesterday here in New Hampshire. You guys should really move. It's pretty fantastic here. So anyway, what do you think, Matt? Do you think legalizing marijuana would be a good push for America to make right now in terms of freedom? Is it the right time? And why?
I think it's absolutely the right time. I've felt that it's the right time for quite some time, frankly. I founded the New Hampshire Coalition for Common Sense Marijuana Policy back in 2007. Back then it was seen as kind of a crazy idea. We tried to bring it up at the legislature. We had public hearings on bills, but they never went anywhere. And, just trying to get marijuana to a limited number of sick people has proven to be a really huge undertaking in this state. And despite last year, we actually did finally pass a medical marijuana law that still is of no benefit to any patient in the state.
How come it's no benefit? What has happened to that? Can you tell me
more
about
what
that?
happened with that? Sure. This is a bill that passed in 2009 but was vetoed by the governor, fell 2 votes short in 2012 again, passed the House and Senate, vetoed by the governor. Last year, the governor agreed to sign the bill, but on the condition that it had to be essentially gutted. The provision that would have allowed patients to grow their own plants and take care of themselves had to be removed from the bill, or she would veto it. And the piece of the bill that would have given patients an immediate legal protection also had to be taken out before she would sign it. She didn't want patients to have any legal protection until they could buy the marijuana from a state-regulated dispensary, which is something that's 2, 3, maybe 4 years away, depending on how quickly that system can be implemented.
And
so we're still fighting that battle, in addition to trying
Right.
to make the arguments in favor of legalization.
What does a dispensary look like? What are the kind of standards that people can hold it to? Is it safe? Should we be concerned at all about mixing of chemicals, or is it approved by the FDA? How does this all undergo? Not that I'm a big fan of the FDA.
I was going to say, it's definitely not approved by the FDA.
Okay.
The FDA doesn't, they don't have a role in this. They approve pharmaceutical medications. Marijuana or cannabis is an herb and is therefore, it's an herb that's illegal on the federal level, but that has been proven to be beneficial to many patients with a wide range of serious illnesses. So 20 states plus DC have had to take the law into their own hands, protect patients from arrest, and make sure they have a safe legal way of accessing marijuana within their state. 99% of the actual arrests are state and local level, so patients don't really have anything to fear from the feds. The feds only go after big cases, 100 plus plants, major traffickers. So a state law can be very effective at protecting patients. This is a question that should be between a doctor and a patient. Medicine, what's best for me? And people should ultimately be able to make their own choices with medical professionals that they choose to interact with. And what we've instead got is a federal system that's broken, and we have a number of state laws, some of which are very effective. To find an effective one, we just have to go to Maine or Vermont or Massachusetts. Patients can grow their own plants in any of those places and are protected from arrest. So why can't we do that and live free or die in New Hampshire? I don't know. You'll have to ask Governor Maggie Hassan.
Right. Well, she hasn't done much, right?
You said it, not me.
Well, I find that personal liberty is something that we talk about a lot on my show, and it comes with personal responsibility. And what I try to teach is the kind of mental fortitude that it would take for one to take on their own life and be able to think about their own life in a selfish manner that's productive. And so I believe that giving people the right to choose what goes into their body is extremely important. And I think that what you're doing here in New Hampshire is really important. And I think that we need to legalize every single substance and allow people to decide what it is that they want to do with their body. And I have no right to choose, and neither does a group of statists. So, what is it that you are doing here in New Hampshire to fight, other than the bill, of course?
Oh my. Well, I have been a registered lobbyist in this state since 2008, banging my head against the walls of the legislature year after year.
Can you imagine?
Trying to pass bills that would either make marijuana legal for seriously ill patients or simply reduce penalties for marijuana possession. We had a bill this year, it's passed the House for the 5th time this year. It would make marijuana possession a violation instead of a criminal offense. $100 ticket, go about your merry business. Not freedom, but certainly a lot closer than being thrown in jail for potentially up to a year. And what most people in New Hampshire have no idea about this, but every other state in New England has decriminalized the simple possession of marijuana. This is one area where New Hampshire lags behind every other state in New England. I worked on a bill in Vermont last year. Vermont decriminalized possession last year, passed the House and Senate, governor signed it, no big deal. But here in New Hampshire, we can't get over that hump, so that's a hump that I'm...
So do the people feel like, are the people on your side in New Hampshire, or is it just the government that's blocking it? Or have they polled the people to see how the people of New Hampshire feel about passing?
There have been a number of bills, and public opinion, there's been a sea change in public opinion, both in New Hampshire and nationally over the last 5 to 6 years particularly. On the question of legalization, in 2007, it was the Gallup poll. Gallup's been asking this question every year since 1969, and in 69 it was 13% of Americans thought marijuana should be legal, and in 2007 it was 36%. Now when you're at 36%, it's pretty hard to move an issue in a democracy. Right. You need at least 50%, and on a controversial issue you need more. So usually, and it was kind of a non-starter. It was hard to even get a bill introduced on legalization in 2007. Today it's 58%. We've seen the curve go like this.
What do you think caused that?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors, but I think the biggest factor is people are sharing information with each other. The Prohibition relied on a top-down propaganda campaign that lasted 70 plus years, and for most of that time there was no internet, there was no way to share information, to find information. When I started in the 90s looking into this as a college student, there was nothing. It was very hard to find anything. You have to go to a university library, which I did, and do hardcore research to find any articles that told you anything. And I found enough back then to pique my curiosity to where I continued to research it over time. And as more information became available, in '96 California passed the first really effective medical marijuana law, and that vaulted the issue into the national consciousness some. But we all grew up learning that marijuana kills brain cells, it makes you crazy, it's just a terrible drug just like heroin.
Reefer madness, right?
Right. and it's just not borne out by any actual science. People tend to think that once upon a time, all the smart scientists and doctors got together and they decided, okay, well, alcohol and tobacco, they're not that bad, we're going to sell those in stores, but marijuana and heroin and all these other drugs are terrible. But in reality, these policies were made in a climate of relative ignorance, and people didn't know what the hell they were voting on in 1937 when they voted for the Marijuana Tax Act. There's an amazing history to this issue. Marijuana was illegal. Cannabis was a legal pharmaceutical from about 1850 to 1937. It was widely available in pharmacies over the counter. And we went from that to having virtually no scientific or medical knowledge being taught in medical schools, for example, for 50 years, and people forgot what they knew. And it's been the last period of time has been about trying to pull it out of the shadows, into the light. It's here. It never went away. People still used it, and especially since the 60s brought it back into culture a little bit. And, rates of use don't seem to care what laws people pass. People make their own decisions for the most part, regardless of what the laws say. So what are we accomplishing by having it be illegal? Well, we're spending a tremendous amount of money. People are paying for this whether they use marijuana or not, and we're incarcerating a lot of people. We're spending a lot of law enforcement and court and prosecutors' time that could be spent, I don't know, to go after rapists or murderers or people who steal each other's cars, instead of people who are doing something that now the majority of Americans say should be legal.
Agreed. So is there anything that we can do to help raise awareness within our own communities, or within just our social networks on Facebook or anything? Is there anything we could do to try and help you and everyone else that is fighting for marijuana legalization?
Absolutely. If people live in New Hampshire, they should join either the New Hampshire Coalition for Common Sense Marijuana Policy Facebook group, which is very active. All the updates happen there. I now work for the Marijuana Policy Project. Go to npp.org, sign up for email updates there as well. There's a lot of information on the internet. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and in any way you choose to receive information. But get in the loop. There's legislatures in session from January through May, June, and during that time there's always something happening. This year will be an election year, an opportunity to get rid of some of the people that have been giving us so many problems over the years. At least one senator.
We have another year to get some more bad ones. So
oh my!
Fingers crossed, guys.
Well, the Senate is people may know the New Hampshire House is 400 members, and there's no one representative that can control what happens in the House. It's sometimes kind of like a mob. Compared to the Senate, which is 24 members, they're very careful about everything they do and how it will be perceived by the public, and they tend to avoid controversy, and for some reason this issue, despite polling better than a lot of other issues they embrace, they're still afraid of marijuana policy reform. They're afraid of being seen as soft on crime, even though I think that was like a 1987 political paradigm. I think it's over.
It is over.
People are tired of that. Law and order. We have 5% of the world's population in this country and about 25% of the world's prison population. We have by far the highest incarceration rate in the world, and I think it's a national disgrace.
That's a crime.
It's not illegal, so it can't be a crime. But, everything Hitler did was legal, and everything Schindler did was illegal. Remember?
You'll find me make very corny jokes. No, I agree with absolutely everything that you're saying. Is there anything else we can do, maybe on social media, to help raise awareness?
Yeah, I think tweeting and retweeting and sharing things from any of the excellent organizations that work on this set of issues is just a great thing to do. People are more receptive to it than ever, and it's working. What we see in the polls, and people would say, oh, we have to wait for all the old people to die, and then we can legalize marijuana. Well, look at the polls. Pew did an excellent poll just released last week. It's called America's Drug Policy Landscape. And one of the things they did was break it out by generation. And each generation has shown an uptick in support. Young people were sharing this stuff with old people. And
good.
It's happening. It's really happening. The over 65 crowd is less supportive than millennials, obviously, but they're moving in the right direction, and they're not as knee-jerk in their opposition as we used to be. So I'd say this is one issue where libertarians are actually kind of winning, and we're still seeing it translate into reality.
Well, hopefully we can see our community lean towards liberty here in New Hampshire, and everywhere else, I hope. That'd be great. So I just want to thank you, Matt, for coming on the show and giving us so much great information. I'm sure my audience absolutely loved it. Remember, guys, knowledge is not for all men, but for those who seek it. So keep seeking.